Welcome to the Invested Dads Podcast, simplifying financial topics so that you can take action and make your financial situation better. Helping you to understand the current world of financial planning and investments, here are your hosts, Josh Robb and Austin Wilson.
Check. Check 1, 2.
All right. All right. Hey. Welcome back to the Invested Dads Podcast, a podcast where we take you on a journey to better your financial future. Today, we are going to be talking about 10 things we wish we would have known, or, I guess, 10 things we think today's high school graduates should know before entering the, and I'm doing air quotes on a podcast, real world.
The real world. So we're going to help them audition for the MTV show.
Hey,
Gotcha.
I bet some people's careers have gotten started off real strong.
Off the
from
real world.
their real world.
Yes.
Yeah, probably not. No. So anyway, let's just jump right into it because we've got a lot to get through today. So, yeah, it's probably no secret that today's high school graduates and high school graduates when we graduated probably should have known some things about real life and finances even, which we'll talk about both aspects of that when they graduated. There's a lot of emphasis on learning how to write in cursive and to do algebra and to learn about Shakespeare, but most people can't do basic things when they graduate high school.
Yep. You're right. Within our school system right now, there's a lot of push towards learning all the underlying things for English and math and science, the STEM, that are important, very important.
They're kind of important,
but
you won't use them in your real life.
I use them all the time.
Yeah.
But the other piece that's missing is at 18, an adult, a lot of people head straight into the workforce and are on their own. And some of the things that they miss out on, we think maybe we could touch on today, at least just a couple of them. But the first one that we think is important and is one of my favorite things is compounding.
Compounding.
And so the idea, for an 18-year-old to know, hey, if I start investing now, if I'm putting my money to work now and giving it enough time, this compounding is going to be huge. And we're going to start with just an example. So we got 3 people.
I love examples, Josh.
We have Karen. We have John.
Wait, is this like Karen? Like
different Karen.
The meme that everyone uses?
The pre-Karen.
Okay, pre-Karen Karen.
Yeah, so just a regular Karen. John and Tom, all right? So they're all starting out. They're all going to start investing. Karen, she's starting investing at age 20, right?
Woo,
so she's
fresh
out
out
there. She's going, and she's going to put $5,000 in a year for 5 years. So 5 times 5,
25.
The math you learned in high school.
So that one is kind of important.
$25,000 she'll put in. All right. So from 20 to 25, she's investing money. Then she stops. Okay. So that's
she retires.
She's done. No, she just stops investing. All right. John,
your brother.
Yep. John is hanging out. He's going to wait to start until 25.
Gotcha.
Okay? So Karen started 20, 5 years. John, he waits 5 years to get going. I don't know what he's doing. He's out
partying,
having a gap year or whatever he's doing.
To the early 20s.
Yep. So he's 25 and he gets started. He's like, I can do $5,000 a year. And you know what? I'm going to do it for 10 years. All right? So 5 times 10 is
$50,000.
Yep. So
double
$50,000, putting in twice the amount, but he waited 5 years longer. Then we got Tom. Tom, he gets a little lost out there in the world. He doesn't start investing till 35. So 15 years later than Karen, 10 years later than John. So at 35, he says, I got $5,000 a year, I'm going to invest. And he's going to do it all the way through until he's 65 years old.
Right.
Okay? So he's going to invest
30 years.
31 years if you count that first year.
Exactly.
So $155,000 is what he's putting in, all right? Because he's going to go all through the workforce putting $5,000 in. All right? So if we assume just average rate of return for them and we go all the way to age 65, how do you think each of them did? And again, we're talking about compounding. So obviously we're pointing towards something.
Right.
So Karen, who started at 20, put it in for 5 years, $5,000 in, put $25,000 in of her money. It grew to $1.6 million, $1,646,689.
And she only put $25,000 in.
$25,000 in, all right? $1,646,689. Remember that number. Lock it in. All right? John, he waited 5 years, and he put double the money in. He put $50,000 in. So at age 65, he also has 1.6, just a little less, 1,632,000. So, we're talking within striking distance.
For an extra $25,000.
He had to put double the money in to get there because he waited 5 years. So that 5 years cost him that.
Right.
It cost him the extra $25,000 of his own money. Then you got Tom.
Poor Tom.
Poor old Tom. He
Poor
waited
Tom.
at 35. 35 realistically is not that far off when a lot of people really start getting serious about investing.
Right.
I mean, if you just think about normal life. So he had to put $5,000 in a year for the rest of his working career. So at age 65, he only has $845,000.
But like half. That's half.
That's a lot of money, but it's half of what the other two put in
for a lot less
for
of their
a lot
own money.
less of their own money.
Right.
And so his percentage of investment is a lot smaller in comparison to what he grew it on. He had to put a lot more of his own money in to get there. So what does that mean?
That
The
means
longer you
yeah.
give your money to invest, the harder it works for you.
Yep.
And so that's the one thing that I wish every 18-year, again, $5,000 a year,
Yeah.
that's less than $500 a month. If you coming out of college, get a job, and you can just find that to put aside, you're a millionaire with putting $25,000
Right.
in. I mean, that's crazy.
And that's, I guess, yeah. So at the end of the day, when you graduate,
Yep.
or whether that be high school or college, whatever that looks like for you, you need to invest right away.
Yes. Start saving.
Something.
That habit is huge.
Yep.
Now, another way of looking at it, we updated and said, okay, now a Roth IRA, you can put $6,000 in. That's a great savings vehicle. And so if you started saving $6,000 a year in a Roth IRA at age 20, and you got an 8% return, just we're using a flat 8% return, you would end at 65 with $2.5 million.
Wow.
And that's $6,000 a year
Yep.
while you're working.
Yep.
So again, that's longer
That's
than she was
$500
doing,
a month.
But that's all you got to do to be a multimillionaire.
Right.
But what's crazy is if you just wait 10 years, so at age 30, okay, you still do $6,000 a year from 30 to 65, 8% return, you get $1.1 million. So you get less than half of what you were getting.
That first 10 years is huge.
Yes, huge. And if you wait until you're 40, so
Not good.
20 years later, you only, it's big money, it's large dollars, but only get $473,000.
Right.
You're missing out on over $2 million by waiting 10 years.
That is
Crazy.
why we can't afford to wait.
No. So that's the first one. I wish all 18 years just throw a little money in account and don't touch it.
Or whether that could be when you graduate college, you get your first job. Whatever that looks like. Just
20. We were using 20.
Put money in.
22. It's not a huge difference.
It's not. It didn't even make our list, but this is where we would feel very strongly that when you graduate college, even if you have student loans, you should be at least getting your match at your employer.
Yes.
Because of that cost.
Save a little bit. Get the habit started.
Yep.
The habit is huge.
Habit is huge. All right, Josh, that is huge. Number 2. And this is something that I think we feel pretty strongly about as well. Carefully consider the cost of your education versus the expected pay that you're going to get. And what I'm kind of meaning by that is, aim to get a degree in a field that has plentiful and good paying jobs, because otherwise you're not going to get your bang for your buck for your education. We're specifically talking about college here.
College education, yeah. Your cost for high school education, it's
Usually
kinda required.
low. Yeah.
And it's kind of required. So, go through the schooling that's needed. But you're right. And this is where I fall in this. I got 4 kids, and they're all young, but as I'm watching them grow, my hope for them is they'll be able to find something they're passionate about and then back into how do I get there.
Yeah.
So there's certain careers that they may not need a college education for. If that's something they're passionate about and really want to do, then find, is it an internship? Is it an apprenticeship? Is it some sort of work study? How do you get there? And what gets you the best chance of success there? It doesn't have to be high paying either. It's just, what do you love doing? And can you survive on that? Like, that's the key. It's like, you got to be able to survive on that. But you don't have to necessarily go to college just because, if you have a career that you can say, there's another way there, by all means, take that.
Oh, yeah. I think college is an absolutely powerful thing that you can use for your, to do better financially, or to learn things, or to do whatever. I think that's a powerful thing, but it's by no means the only way to have a fulfilling life.
Yep.
And I think that that's something that's probably pushed on young people that really isn't the truth of the matter.
Right. You don't have,
don't
especially
have to.
if you don't know what you want to do,
Don't go to college.
college is not a good place
Right.
to sit there and find out.
You're gonna
'cause
spend a
paying
lot of money
to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
Now, you may take a year or two working or doing something and then figure out what you want. Then you could go to
Right.
college for whatever that is. But if you put a couple of years in, then change your mind, that's a lot of money you're going to have to pay back for thinking about what you want to do.
And this is, we kind of differ a little bit on the way we look at this, but I work, fortunately for me, I work in a field that I really love and I enjoy. It's a great job. But I also feel like it depends on how you want to look at your family life going forward. But if you aim to be, the provider for your family, you want to earn good money so that they can have what they need taken care of and have good benefits, I would, focus on getting a job that is going to accomplish those things. And then even if it's not something, if it's good and you're okay with it, that's fine, and you're good at it, that's good. But even if it's something that you're like, it's not your dream, well, you can do some things on the side to have your passions fulfilled while also providing for your family very well. So there's kind of two ways to approach that. You don't need to have, necessarily the biggest passion for what you do. It's great if you do, but paying the bills and providing for your family is very important. And there's always outlets that you can find things that you're passionate about. But it's great if you can do like what we do, and that's what we're passionate about what we do, and we get paid to do it.
And there's stepping stones. So your passion, you may not be able to get that job right out of college, but you may have to take some jobs that are not maybe quite as fun to work towards that. Right. And so, yeah, you're right. Maybe, whatever it is my end goal is, I'm going to want to get here. Well, there may be ways to get there that you say, I'm not really a fan of what I'm doing, but I know this will get me to the next step, which will get me to where I'm at, where I'm going to be completely satisfied with what I am. And every job, I think there's some things you love, and some things you may not like.
Absolutely.
There's certain things you have to do for every job. And so I know some people who, at least in my opinion, they just always seem to be dissatisfied. And I'm like, you're looking for the perfect job. Maybe that doesn't exist.
Right.
But there's things at the job you're at now that you just love and you're good at.
Right.
Can you look past the other things that like, I hate doing this part of my job? Well, so does everybody probably, but somebody's got to do it. So, don't make sure there is a passion involved in there. But you're right. There may be some things you got to do just because you need it.
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
bills that are paid and they're there.
Number 3, and Josh, I want you to elaborate this.
Yes.
This is a good one. You do not know everything at 18.
At 18. Well, at any age.
Or
I
anyway.
would say.
I don't get it either.
But I feel like, if I think back to 18 through early college, you think you got the world figured out. And, when we were creating this list, part of the reason why I liked this one was if I would have been more open to listen to people who had already experienced some stuff, I would be a lot farther along in my life than I am now. And again, going back to even just like that compounding, if somebody would have came up to me and said, hey, when you get your first job, throw some money in and watch it grow, like that's huge. But, I thought, I know what I'm going to do, and I got my ideas. And I think just realizing that there are smart people out there and they may have experienced things that can help you if you're willing to listen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I think that when we turn 18 or we graduate high school or even we graduate college or whatever, we feel like we know everything. Mm-hmm. And I think like it's a really dangerous.
Yeah. Now, I was the exception. I did know everything.
Okay, so you were the one.
I'm just saying this for everybody else.
For everyone else, yeah. So, I feel like it's a really dangerous place to be because you really don't have life experience. No. And only through those life experiences and those years are you going to learn.
Yep. And now that I'm older, I look back and I'm like, man,
you're 19 now.
I'm saying the same things now to kids that age that I was hearing, and I'm like, man, they were probably right.
Right.
I thought they're all just, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, they probably do. So
number 4,
don't know everything.
Josh. Number 4, how credit cards work. I feel like that is
swipe,
and then
free money,
and
you're good to go.
Sometimes you get paid to do it.
It's awesome.
So I feel like as 18, 20, 22, whatever that looks like for you, year old, not fully understanding how credit cards work is dangerous. Mm-hmm. And credit card companies, they're kind of they go into with that, Yeah. Young people can get a credit card, might not have a huge limit,
toaster.
And a free toaster. They can get approved for a credit card very easily, without a lot of credit history or whatever. And then you can go out and buy whatever you want.
Yeah. And you have to pay for a month.
Yeah, that's just it. They don't really realize that if you don't pay for what you bought the prior month or whatever right away when it's
23% interest,
you are getting huge interest charges, and you can it kind of goes the opposite of compound interest. Yeah. It's compound interest.
The other way.
It compounds interest against you, and if you have many credit cards and you max them out and get a new one and max them out and get a new one, you can be paying on those things for years.
Yes.
And that's like, was that video game or that Xbox or that whatever you bought, TV, was that really worth the interest on top of it for 5
cost
years?
For it, yeah.
So what happens when you buy something is it's great, and credit cards can be a very useful tool. Check out our episode. We talked about,
and we're not against credit cards.
We're not against them.
We just, especially for a young person just starting out,
Caution.
understand what it is, how much you are allowed to put on it, but how much you can afford to put on it.
Absolutely.
And that's huge.
Well, you should, really approach it like you're paying for it when you buy it.
Yep.
So if you have the money in your account, great.
Yep. And again, we've talked about this. Credit cards are great for building up your credit score so you can get, down payment on the house. You can get a nice interest rate for your mortgage.
Yep.
You can get approved for better interest rates and save money down the road. Credit cards are useful for that. You can build a credit history, but you got to be careful with them.
Absolutely. So just understand how credit cards work. It's not free money. And despite the fact that you might get cash back, you also have to pay that off the bill when it comes. So our advice, start getting and building credit early. Start with something simple like, hey, only put your gas on this card or whatever that looks like
Utilities
for you.
Or
something
whatever.
simple, and make sure that you've got the money to cover that as it happens. And then set up our favorite thing, one of our favorite things, automatic recurring payments that use the statement balance as you get it.
Just pay it
You'll
off
never
every
have an
month.
issue.
Yep.
And you can use the tool as it should be for you.
There's a reason why credit cards can offer cash back to people.
Because most people
other
don't.
People,
yeah.
Other people are paying huge interest to cover those costs.
Exactly. So that's number 4, how credit cards work. Let's talk about number 5, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with higher education, but it's probably very valuable for most people to understand as they're especially exiting high school how to pay for college and how paying for college really works. Because first of all, we had just mentioned, I think it's kind of pushed that college is the only way. Go for it. It's great, and just make it happen and pay for it later. Well, that's kind of a tough spot that a lot of people are put in, and a lot of people go to school for, maybe they don't even need to go to school, and they take out a bunch of student loans for something that they don't use.
Yep.
Or, they're just going to be taking out additional debt that's going to set them back when they're young. And college is not free. Did you know that?
College is
Despite
not free.
what some politicians are kind of working
maybe down the road
towards looking
right now
at.
it's not.
Right now, college is not free, and it's never been free, and you have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And with paying for it, unless you have the cash for it, which is great, and we also have an episode about paying for college and 529s and all of those kind of things. So we'll link all these episodes in the show notes, but there is interest associated with student loans.
Yes.
So when you take out that student loan, whether that be a federal student loan or whether it be a private student loan, there's interest associated. So you're going to pay more than you're borrowing, and that's something that has put millennials and Gen Z behind the 8 ball in terms of investing, like we talked about, because we have graduated with student loans, and a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to pay those things off because they're huge, right? Well, it's a tough spot to be in because, as we mentioned before, the cost of waiting for retirement savings is huge. So you really need to be doing both, but we are taking out way more loans than any other generation before us.
Yes. Yep, definitely.
So paying for college.
And who's paying for college? Sometimes you get support, help, scholarships, all that stuff. But at some point, your loans, which sometimes I don't think everybody realizes how much they're accruing in loans because they don't have to pay it while they're there, they come due. Yeah. And so, again, it's just a matter of understanding each year what the cost is for what you're getting and making sure it's worth it.
And not everyone's going to go to their dream college. You actually have to there's a financial, responsible decision. You can't go to Harvard if you don't afford it.
Right.
Or whatever. It sounds great to go to college in Hawaii, but is that really realistic? How are you going to pay for that? And first of all, in-state tuition is typically a lot cheaper than out-of-state, and public tuition is cheaper than private tuition. Yep. So kind of, look at your resources and your ability to do these things, and then overlay that with the reality of the cost. Yep. Because they're not the same. You're going to have to compromise somewhere. Mm-hmm. And being willing to compromise is going to save you down the road.
And the other thing, again, going back to which I knew when I was 18, is look at what extra benefits colleges offer, like job placements, internships. To me, really, that's the value at the back end is if I can get an internship at a company that I may want to work at, I have a better chance of getting a job there later on. And so if a college offers a lot of those additional programs, that's a nice benefit, and maybe could be the decision making when trying to decide between a couple.
Yep.
All right, let's take a quick break. I got a dad joke for you, and maybe a bonus one. We'll see.
I like
All
it.
right. So here's the first one. First dad joke. The police came to my house and asked where I was between 5 and 7.
Okay.
I said preschool.
That's funny.
Not eight, not time, but 8.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That's funny stuff. All right, here's the other one. Do you know what happens when it rains cats and dogs?
Oh, it's a mess.
You can step in a poodle.
You can step in a poodle. That is funny. All right, and we're back. We got 5 more. It's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Number 6, Josh.
Yes.
I think everyone should graduate knowing how to change a dang tire.
Yes.
It's so sad that some people don't, because you have to be able to do that. And just, first of all, nowadays,
First step, here you go. First step, when you get a car,
see if it
make
has
sure
a spare
it has
tire.
a spare tire.
Right.
True story.
Well, new ones sometimes don't, because they get to save the weight and gets better mileage.
That's what I'm saying. True
And
story.
cost.
Tony, our boss, Tony Hickson, told me a story. He got a used van and got a flat tire and went to change it, and they did not have a spare tire.
Had to
And
get
so
towed.
check to make sure
Yeah.
you have a spare tire so you can change it if it does get flat.
Absolutely, especially those newer vehicles. They will
watch 'em.
They will not put a tire in to save on cost, and they'll not put a tire
gonna
in to
need a
save on
tire.
weight. And you really need to be able to
need a
know
tire.
that. But if you do have a tire, you got to know how to change it.
I know I have a spare tire because it sits on the back of my Jeep and you can see it.
See, yeah, that's right.
It's right there.
I remember I was in college and I had a 96 Accord. I loved it. It was a great car. No air conditioning. We called it 470.
That's what the windows are for.
We called it 470. So you put the 4 windows down, go 70 mile an hour, and you get cold.
Yeah,
So on a highway, I'm going to say that.
on a highway, that speed limit is 70.
Exactly. Perfectly
That's the only time
legal.
you drive 70.
Perfectly legal. So I was at Walmart here in town during college, and I came out of Walmart and I looked at my car and a flat tire. So I had to change my tire to my donut in the Walmart parking lot and then drive around to get a brand new. They had the exact tire
There you go.
in stock that I already had.
Ready to go.
So I got my.
I bet
got my
they
tire.
did that. They probably flattened your tire just to get one.
Like, we're gonna get some business
Conspiracy.
here. So yeah,
But
learn.
it's safety. I mean, it really is safety. Like if you get a flat tire out in the middle of nowhere or on a busy place where you don't want to leave your car, or if you have other people in your car with you,
Right.
you want to be able to get from one location to another to a safe spot.
Right.
So understanding how to change a tire, and it's not all that difficult.
No.
The hardest I've always had is those lug nuts. Sometimes can be
A pain.
stubborn.
I know.
And so other than that, it's not too bad.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's probably building on that. Good to know what tire pressure is. So, like on the inside of your door panel, it tells you what size tire and how much air pressure each tire should have.
Yes.
And it's good to know how to read a tire pressure gauge, because not I had a car that did not have the fancy little thing. Like
alerts.
on my dash right now, it has the alert, which it's cold right now. So all my tire, once in a while, my tires will get low, but that's just how it works in the cold. But pre this vehicle, or my couple vehicles ago, my old car did not have anything. So I had to go manually, visually look to see if everything looks good, and then go around each one with a tire pressure gauge and check. And if you don't know that, you need to use a tire pressure gauge, because that can be a first tell at, hey, this tire's going down slowly. It has a nail in it. You won't even see it.
You don't see the nail until it's too late.
Exactly.
And those tire pressure, they have digital ones now. I mean, they're not that expensive. Like if you
I'm
don't like to
old-fashioned.
do a little pop out little indicator, like you could use a digital one and it'll tell you straight on there.
Yeah.
Then you need to know, well, what's it supposed to be?
Yep.
So you got to look in the door, or if you have different size tires, maybe on the tire. But the high level, understand those pieces will save you.
Yeah. All right. Number 7, something we're really passionate about, the freedom of being debt free.
Now, again, we're talking about an 18-year-old, so realistically, they may have some debt, maybe a car payment, something like that, but heading into possibly college, they may be incurring more debt. But the idea of managing that debt and as soon as possible getting that debt down to zero is huge. Now, we always kind of separate out mortgage debt as something a little different because it's tied to an appreciating asset instead of depreciating. Education's kind of in that middle ground because you get
an asset that works for you.
You get a higher pay potential, which is a positive, but it is a debt that will need paid off.
And a higher interest rate, because there's no hard asset to go back on.
Right. So, but in general, understanding just the burden of owing somebody is stressful. And again, coming back to depending on what your career choice is, that burden, that debt could be more if it's maybe a fluctuating income, maybe it's not a steady stream of income, those type of things. That getting debt free is huge.
Absolutely. So yeah, as soon as you can, realistically and responsibly get to where those are, we feel like that's a very, very important thing because it sets you up to be able to do what with your money? To maybe invest and save a little bit more,
compound it.
To grow it, to compound it, and it's just there's a lot of mental freedom associated with that.
Yep.
If you don't have a car loan and a student loan and a credit card, yada, 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 over your head that you have to make sure you have enough money for every month, that allows you to sleep better at night, to feel better about your situation overall. And that's something that we really encourage. Josh, what's number 8?
Number 8 is enjoy each phase of life. Don't get caught up by looking too far ahead. And again, for an 18-year-old, like you'll be like, I just can't wait till I'm X years old and I'll be able to do this or that or, all those things. Enjoy each phase because you only get to live it once.
Right.
And the things you're looking forward to may be great, but you're also going to look back and say, man, time flies.
Right.
And so now, I turned 38 this month, and you look back to 18-year-old, like time flies.
Right.
And you think, man, there were some good opportunities I had then that I don't have now that either I'm glad I took advantage of or I wish I would have taken advantage of. And so I just say, for 18-year-old, you're at the point where you can make some dumb decisions and
do okay.
Have plenty of time to recover from it, right?
Exactly.
But you also have the ability to try things out.
Yep.
This is the point in your life where you get to figure out, what do I like? What am I passionate about? What are the things long term that I could settle in and really enjoy? And you can try it, and if it doesn't work, you can move to something. Like, this is the point in your life where you really have a lot of flexibility.
And that with that flexibility, you just have so much. So at that age, you're probably not married. You probably don't have children. Maybe you don't have pets or a mortgage or whatever. You have so much freedom to do whatever you want. You can travel a little bit within your means. You can just have some adventures, some things that you really can't. It's a lot harder to do once you settle down and you have a house and 2 dogs and a family, which is its own great things to look forward to.
Yep.
But it makes doing some more risky things, like you had mentioned, a little bit more tricky, and you've got to plan ahead, and it's just not as spontaneous or as adventurous. So yeah, enjoy each phase of life, because each phase of life has its own perks and its own challenges that weren't necessarily present in the ones before and aren't necessarily present in the ones to come. There's pros and cons.
Yep.
So it's great. Number 9. You need to understand your employee benefits, and that. Obviously there's a whole package usually when you get a full-time job, whether that be at a high school or at a college, when you've got health insurance benefits, you've got retirement benefits, you've got all of these things. You need to very clearly understand what those are, how much you're paying for them, and what they're doing for you, because that's going to help you set yourself up for not having too much cost in the short term, but also for long-term success as maybe you might retire.
Yeah, and no one else out there is going to be forcing you or encouraging you to sign up for these. They're going to show you what's there, but they're not obligated to make sure you get all these things. So if your company offers life insurance and you don't have any life insurance, they're not going to be tracking you down and saying, hey, make sure you sign up for this. They're going to say, here's your benefits. Tell me what we want. Go to work.
Right.
And so you really need to look through all those, because there's maybe a lot of things there that are cheaper than if you go out and get it somewhere else, that if you just knew they were offering them, to take advantage of it.
Yeah, so it gets to that point, ask.
Yeah, see what's there.
See when you're getting onboarded and going through all of these things, ask questions, because those questions are going to help you save, in the long run. Yeah, a lot of bigger companies specifically have negotiated rates that are usually a little bit cheaper or whatever than if you were to do it alone. So that's why they offer those.
Even some auxiliary things. Like I was just talking to somebody the other day who said their company offers free estate planning, and they have a list of attorneys, but you just have to sign up. And they'll have for free let you set up a will.
Wow.
That's huge.
That's cool.
And it's just there, but you got to do it. You got to take the own initiative to say, hey, I need to sign up, get me on that listing. But there's probably a lot of benefits out there. Maybe they have a softball league. There you go. That's a benefit. Let me sign up, because I'm going to be active. But see what they have. ask some other employees as you get in there and get settled in. Ask around, say, hey, is there anything that you like? I need to know about. Is there anything I should be doing? I'm sure they'd love to help you.
And last but not least, number 10.
Yes,
we want you to know that there is free information out there to help you understand things, especially when it comes to the finance world. This podcast is one example of that.
Yes,
it costs you nothing to listen to it, and we're thank you for
Besides
it.
Besides your time.
And your time is valuable, and we appreciate you listening. But there's a lot of free information on the internet and from just experts around the country and the world that can really help you set yourself up. But yeah, there is. Just utilize free information, read up, do some research, and we're glad you're listening to this free resource as well.
Yep. And it really, it's if you're saying, I just need help with debt, there's a lot of free resources out there on debt management and getting out of debt. If you're saying, I want to know more about credit cards, there's a lot of Jess, one of our colleagues, who has the Everyday Advisor, there's some information on there. Blogs, free.
Yep.
Read up on them, see what they have. And so, take advantage of that. Take advantage of, the library. A lot of times there's programs and stuff at your local library that you can get involved in to learn more about what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, as always, check out our free gift to you. Speaking of free things, it's a brief list of 8 principles of timeless investing. These are overarching investment themes meant to keep you on track to meet your long-term goals. And we talk about a handful of these things in there. So check that out. It's free on our website. Josh, how can people help us to continue to grow this podcast?
Yep. Make sure you subscribe. That way you can get our podcast every Thursday. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's always great for us. Helps us rank higher, and that helps more people find us. And then if you have any ideas, want to talk about what you wish you knew at 18, shoot us an email at hello@theinvesteddads.com. And as always, if you know someone who's around that age and you think this would be helpful, share that episode with them.
All right. Well, until next Thursday, have a great week.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Invested Dads podcast. This episode has ended, but your journey towards a better financial future doesn't have to. Head over to theinvesteddads.com to access all the links and resources mentioned in today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and we had a positive impact on your life, leave us a review, click subscribe, and don't miss the next episode. Josh Robb and Austin Wilson work for Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. All opinions expressed by Josh, Austin, or any podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Hicks & Zerker Capital Management may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. There is no guarantee that the statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. Securities investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment plan or strategy will be successful.